Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
It is 8:07 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. And yes, we are talking about all of the palace intrigue inside the Republican caucus with the stunning news last night that Speaker Boehner did not have his votes to pass Plan B. And now there's somewhat a bit of a turmoil right now within the Republican Party, and many people think it's finally the Tea Party caucus rearing its head. We're talking about that, and, by the way, taking your calls about it. Join the conversation, 888-630-9625. Good morning, I'm Larry O'Connor, alongside Brian Wilson. Good morning, Brian.
And good morning to you, Larry. We're joined by Byron York, Chief Political Correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Okay, Byron, what the heck happened yesterday? Because, you got this press conference where, Boehner lays down this 51-second, throws down the gauntlet and says, we're going to pass it. And I'm reading people that I know up there who cover this beat and know it well. And even the people who were opposed to the Speaker's plan acknowledged that he had the votes like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then about 5 or 6, something happened. Do you have any sense of what that thing was?
Well, I wouldn't call it the world's biggest disaster, but it was a disaster of sorts, in which is that Boehner never had the firm commitments of the whole group, or of 217 Republicans. And the strategy, of course, was to pass what they call a majority of a majority, pass it only with Republican votes, because Democrats were going to.
But Byron, you don't go out there and say you've got the votes when you don't have the votes. That's political suicide in this town.
Well, exactly. He did not have them, and we knew it a little earlier in the afternoon.
So you believe he didn't have the votes going in?
He did not. When they put off the vote in the early afternoon, nobody ever says, well, we've got the votes to pass this. I think we'll just take 8 more hours to mess around before we pass this thing. Right. So you knew there was trouble. And I think that there's serious disarray and chaos inside the Republican Party right now. I think that a lot of Republicans and conservative Republicans are pretty angry at the group that scuttled this whole thing. Representative Jack Kingston tweeted last night, in just one sentence, he said, I think we've just made the perfect the enemy of the good. And
that's interesting.
I think a lot of Republicans feel that way. I think a number of these conservative Republicans, a lot of them new, will be defending themselves today. Basically, their position is, look, we've already passed a bill extending all of the Bush tax cuts. That's our offer. There it is. So they're just not up for any negotiations, really, with the White House.
So we got this press conference at 10 o'clock. The Speaker's going to address the press. What's going to happen there? Do you have any sense of it?
It could be even shorter than the other one. Maybe this could be 30 seconds long. I think that he's going to reiterate what he said last night was, he said, I'm washing my hands of this. He's saying this is now up for the President and Majority Leader Reid in the Senate to decide. He was basically saying, we're out of it. And he sent the House home. They can go home for Christmas now. There weren't going to be any more votes or anything before Christmas. Told them all that they need to be on a 48-hour warning, so in case they're called back to Washington. But, last night was an example of Speaker Boehner just washing his hands of this.
Yeah, which, Byron, isn't that kind of the worst imagery right now? Because it plays into what the Democrats and the President are going to be able to say, which is the Republicans don't have their act together. They don't have any ideas. They should just get out of the way and let us lead, which, by the way, I'm told from some Republican congressman on the Hill that that's basically what John Boehner said immediately after the election. He said the President won, let's let him, lead the way and let's see what happens, which I think was the beginning of his problems.
The problem, if you will, is that Republicans control the House. If Democrats controlled the whole thing, I guess Republicans could just sit back and let it happen.
Right.
But they control the House. So the House, to avoid going over the fiscal cliff, or to fix things after we do go over the fiscal cliff, is going to require action of the House. And
leadership.
Do not have the vote to do it themselves.
Right. And Byron, it takes leadership, and what we've seen from Speaker Boehner, first of all, is trying to intimidate and purge out dissenting voices within the Republican ranks, and not trying to build coalitions. And then we've seen him constantly running back and forth to the White House, giving here, giving there, giving there, giving all these specifics, and not forcing the President to give anything. There's no leadership there.
As far as the dissent is concerned, I think there's, 240 or 241 Republicans in the House. And he had probably all but about 25 or so of them. So he actually did have a large number of
right, but he still strong-armed those few that disagreed with him. I mean, given that, he could have kept those three guys on committee.
There's a shock. There's something that never happens.
Yeah.
Strong-arming the members of your conference? That happens all the time.
Look, the huge step that Boehner took was to concede on the principle of raising tax rates. And the president said that in his odd news conference on Wednesday, that, look, Speaker Boehner has conceded this principle, which he has. He just wanted to keep the number of people on whom taxes were raised, above $1 million. But that principle has been broken as far as Boehner's offer is concerned. And then it could be a matter of just negotiating. Okay, Boehner says $1 million, the president says $400,000. How about we meet somewhere? That's what these Republicans, these conservative Republicans, were so angry about, because they had said this for so long. And somebody tweeted last night, it was actually a great comment, these conservative Republicans took the Americans for Tax Reform pledge more seriously than Americans for Tax Reform did, because, as you know, Grover Norquist's organization basically said Plan B would be an okay vote.
Yeah.
They would not hold that against congressmen who took it, but still, some group, 25 or so of conservative Republicans, said absolutely not.
Well, and they also said, before we concede on a fundamental tenet like raising income tax rates, could we please see some specific cuts from the White House?
Right, and it seemed to me that Boehner's offer should always have been, we will agree to raise tax rates on the highest earners in exchange for serious serious entitlement reform, serious spending cuts, and to put it into the president's
right. If the Republicans go back on their base, the Democrats need to go back on their base, and that was never on the table from the White House.
Well,
and Republicans actually could have offered, instead of the $1 million, they could have offered basically the whole thing. We will agree to the president's plan to raise taxes on people above $250 in exchange for serious entitlement reform. Now, the president campaigned day in and day out on raising taxes for people who make more than $250,000. If the Republicans had made that offer, the person holding it up would be the president.
All right, so you tweeted out a short time ago you think they have a perception problem, the Republicans in the House.
Well, the Republicans who held this up, who voted against this, have a major image problem developing. I think they're going to be out explaining themselves today, and but clearly so many other Republicans, probably on a 8 or 9 or even 10-to-1 basis, so many other Republicans in the House were prepared to vote for this, and they're really, really mad at this small group of Republicans, and it makes it look like they can't keep it together. They can't actually get anything done as the controlling party in the House.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it right there, Byron, but we thank you so much for joining us here and helping us understand. I'm not sure still I understand.
I don't
exactly.
think we understand any more than when we started.
Well, but we keep talking about it, and maybe we'll find some truth along the way. Listen, thank you, Byron.